My name is Loovuse, and I work in this house as a researcher, and I'm ecologist. So based on yesterday's presentation, I'm the person whose creativity is almost killed. So this is a great challenge for me to be here, to be together with you, and listen all your presentations and get some input for my future, because actually, yes, I'm a researcher here, but I started to work as a part-time supervisor or teacher in nature school also. So I work with the children already, so it would be great to see some or to learn something from you also. Some information about recording. So as already mentioned, all presentations will be recorded, but I know that there are somebody who doesn't want that their presentations will be published, so we will. So it's fixed. If you have walked around, probably you have seen some white boards around the area. So during the conference, if you have some ideas, some questions, some keywords to discuss about, feel free and write it down on the whiteboard. So, and tomorrow afternoon, there will be panel discussion, and we can discuss about these ideas, thoughts, what you have. Something else? We will have 20 minutes for all presentations, so take your time. But it would be great if your presentation will be like 15, 16, 17 minutes. A bit more, then we will have enough time for discussion, for questions. But still, if you have left 3 minutes, so I will show it. This is red one as a like negative color for somebody, so I will show this one. And if it's like half a minute, so I will stand up. So because we need to keep in time, because maybe there are somebody who would like to come to our session, so we need to keep our schedule. But we already have lost some time. Sorry, and I hope that technical problems will solve soon. But our first presentation is about dreams, and the speaker will be Joanna. So. Yeah. Can you see this one?
My name is Joanna Storie. I'm a student at the Estonian University of Life Sciences in the Landscape Architecture department. And my topic today, Dare to Dream. And it's the role of inspiration and participation in moving towards a more hopeful future in landscape governance. My colleagues will probably major more on the landscape governance, and I'm from the more sustainable development bit, which is why I tend to focus on my focus. And my topic is actually mainstreaming participatory development in rural Latvia and Estonia. So it's bringing participatory development into the heart of development, and not as an add-on or as a nice idea, but actually bringing it into, integrating it into the very heart. I'd like to start off with a quote from the Dalai Lama. The planet does not need more successful people. The planet desperately needs more peacemakers, healers, restorers, storytellers, and lovers of all kinds. So in the first section of my presentation, I'd like to introduce you to 3 people who have demonstrated that ability to some of those qualities that Dalai Lama say that we need. They've brought healing and restoration to their respective communities. They've brought hope and new ways of working, and they've done that through using the arts. In May of 2014, I had the pleasure of holding a workshop for a Latvian NGO called loovusest. It was a workshop to reflect back on the past 7 years and think through the important highlights that made the organisation what it is today. In a village of around 150 inhabitants, 50 are part of this organisation. Eva Hanniina, that you can see here, is the founder of this organisation. She's an artist in her own right, and she is an inspiration to this community that she's moved into. The foundation of what she builds is the belief, and I've quoted her here, these are her exact words: the best thing to fill the emptiness, social or economic, etc., is creative thinking, and the capacity for that lies in everyone. We must simply wake it up. The first activity that she organised with the community was bringing the community together to have a disused dairy demolished. It was at the centre of the village, a derelict place, and it was a reminder of the past, a reminder that their village had not gained prosperity in the independence, something that they'd really hoped for. The organisation bases most of its activities around workshops using mainly natural materials to create sculptures. So this hay castle that you see here was just created out of a framework of netting and the hay that they cut from around that area. And they also do exhibitions, so there's one on meadows, and again using as many natural materials as possible. Over the years, the community has learnt to work together to hold these exhibitions and workshops. They've renovated an old school building as a community centre, and they've encouraged young families and enabled them to grow their own food, teaching them, giving them seeds and that sort of thing. And they've provided a clothing exchange facility. These activities have built an important foundation of trust and hope to take the community forward. I asked Eva recently what she thought were the keys to the success of the organisation, and these were the points that she gave me. So the surprise or intrigue, everything had to have an element of surprise and intrigue, something to discuss, to think about. What is it again? Something unusual. What are they planning this time? And this silly thing, it's worth going to see. These are things that came out in the workshop as well, and definitely the last one. No, that's even more crazy than last year. What will we come up with next? There is definitely an element of that in all these workshops. And this poster that they created for the clean-up campaign is about cleaning up mines as well as cleaning up sheds. So an element of, what is this all about? What is it? Get some thinking. What are we doing this time? It's also a challenge to think beyond the expected of just cleaning up the environment. It's also another example of a crazy idea that has kept the community coming back again and again helping to develop that sense of expectation. None of this would really matter if it did not lead to one particular outstanding feature of this organisation. The sense that people in the last 7 years have moved beyond the dereliction in their minds that they felt when they saw those run-down buildings in the centre of the village, to one where they actually believed that they could work through the issues together. I believe rang out again and again from the lips of the members during this workshop, from an area that they once felt offered nothing. It was destined to become one of the statistics in the fast declining rural population. Now, they are seriously thinking of weaning themselves off project money and trying to work through ideas where they can generate their own businesses, their own funding. Again, utilising the resources around them, the natural resources, in a sustainable way. The next example of an inspirational leader is a lady called Katie Roth. She's English, but she lives in Ergli in Latvia, and she speaks Latvian fluently. Unfortunately, I don't, but she does. And she works in a local school, both as a music teacher, but also as a music therapist. Now, music therapy is essentially about using the music to bring healing to people. She uses the music to reach out to vulnerable members of the school community and helping them to overcome the isolation they feel, to help them to connect with others, and just as importantly, to connect with themselves. This picture, of course, doesn't show one of Katie's clients, but it shows her sharing her love of music with others. Currently, she's working on a theory of bringing youngsters together, where you have one vulnerable youngster and a willing volunteer who will work alongside this vulnerable youngster and slowly helping the child to formulate better relationships using the healing properties of music. This has had significant impacts on the children. She's worked with the teachers and they have been commenting on the remarkable improvements in those children. But Katie's work doesn't finish there. She's also drawing the teachers in to work alongside her. And in so doing, she's helping them to observe and think about the school community and the impacts it has on young people and how to improve the cohesion within the school. This, of course, has great implications for the future, as different generations work together to develop a warm and inclusive society in which people can thrive. As Professor Sarah Wilson said in the Australian National Geographic, and the quote is here, "A community that strengthens its bonds through collective song and dance has a better chance of survival, one that is able to face the hardships together." My third and final inspirational leader is a lady working in the area where she actually grew up and not moved into like the previous two examples, Lia Yorkster, from the Salas Rivas Novas, where she is a deputy and an organic farmer. She has about 400 hectares of land. And despite the initial transfer to organic farming as a financial decision, she's since come to believe that this is a sustainable and wholeheartedly believes in this sort of organic farming as a way to go. But in addition to the farm, she also has a cafe and a shop on site, open for the benefit of the local community and her workers. As a deputy, she was encouraged to develop community activities, and she decided to start a theatre group. As this dynamic lady observed, in bringing people together for the purpose of entertainment, they were coming with their problems, with their issues, and as people talked through, the solutions were found to these problems, and also business relationships were developed. This relaxed atmosphere, well, as relaxed as you can be for a theatre group with first night nerves and all that, they were helping the community by being a catalyst that brings people together where community can be developed. Other activities also came out of the theatre group, which often provided a core group of active workers for such things as clean-up operations and banquets for the community. They'll often go away together due to the firm friendships that they have built. Although the grain from Leah's farm is actually mainly sold in America, and we can dispute whether that is sustainable or not, she's also developing short supply chains in the community by using local produce for her cafe and supplying food for special occasions in the community. But these connections arise from the everyday conversations within that theatre group. Too often, low self-esteem and past traumas can lead to destructive behaviours and poor social cohesion. A lack of hope in the future leads to short-term thinking, or a lack of concern for the environment and the effects on others. As Eva notes, there is a need not just to clean up the environment, but also to clean their minds. The Stockholm Resilience Centre, as we've been hearing a lot of in the last few in the lectures last night, they've been working on detailing the complex social and ecological systems and the implications for development. They're generating much integrated knowledge on the state of our planet and its implication for the future. But they also believe in marrying science with art and business. Why? Because science and knowledge alone will not make the difference to help us change our sustainable lifestyles. There needs to be a dialogue between them to help us make the transition to a more sustainable future. We need resilient communities, ones that work together. There is a need for innovative approaches to draw artists, storytellers, scientists, therapeutic professions, conservationists and policymakers, the public and the experts, into a conversation to help formulate healthy images of a sustainable lifestyle, well connected with the landscape and the environment in which people live. Something I think that these three individuals have highlighted demonstrate in their communities. I think, as we heard last night, it's therefore not an either or, but both. An intellectual capacity is needed to know what needs doing, but the emotional capacity to drive that forward is the creative arts is very useful. Resilience is a widely used term these days, a little bit like sustainability. It can mean everything and nothing, as many buzzwords can. However, it's still a term I feel we need to understand and implement. We need to construct communities with the capacity to manage change in a positive way. We need to build trust and improve the community's ability to work together. We need to make connections within the community. We need leaders who will help us to do that, to build trust. We need to support these leaders so that they don't burn out. We need to use art to communicate to hearts of these communities, building self-esteem and encouraging that working together. I highlight these three leaders, not because they are doing anything particularly extraordinary, I'm sure there are other examples, but to highlight an issue that is so easily overlooked. As we seek to impart knowledge to communities, knowledge, as I've already said, is not enough. But these inspirational leaders do use creative methods, and they can show us how the arts can be a catalyst to doing something different, to helping these communities to change. It may take time. The NGO Utensimas has been in operation for 7 years in that community, but now we are beginning to see those breakthroughs that are seeping into the community. I will leave you with the final slide. This is not about portraying a utopia. but inspiring people and bringing hope. Without a dream of the future, without hope, it is unlikely that the people will be willing to make the tough changes needed.
So in the audience, do you have any questions? Feel free to ask. So you were mostly talking about Latvia. And how big are these communities you are talking about?
Well, Evergley is approximately 2,500 actually in the town, and 3,500 in the Novats, which is where the school draws their pupils from. Like I said, Utensimas Kaldabruna is 150, and Jaoks, I'm not entirely sure how big where she has her farm is quite small, so I don't think there's many in that particular area, so in a few hundreds, but in the wider thing.
But is there any balanced number of people for one community, then your ideas or this dream ideas and hope works? Is there any? Because I think for me it seems that 100 people is okay. So it can work in such a small communities. But if we have thousands or several thousands people in our community, where should we start? We start from smaller ones and create bigger communities. So your ideas can spread somehow. Well, it's quite difficult.
In one sense, this is the beginning. This is looking for those examples, and I'm actively looking for more examples to see how do we actually manage that process? How do we get people to change? And so I'm going to the Latvian Rural Parliament later on this year, and I'm looking for more people to actually ask and to sort of explore this idea a little more. But I think, Katie is working within the school, so we're working within a few hundred. But I think because it's a school, it's got great potential to actually go out from there and generate ideas and sort of synergies and things like that. So I think you're right. Small is usually you've got a synergy of people who know each other and can therefore develop the trust and that sort of thing. But why not have several of these working in 1,000, inspirational leaders that will help just drive things forward and help to build that self-esteem. Because if we wait for the people to do it, if they're feeling hopeless, if they're feeling disempowered, they're not going to do it on their own. They need people who will inspire them and help them to transition.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for the very inspiring presentation. I was wondering about this issue of, when you're talking about participation, this issue of inclusion versus exclusion. And I was wondering if using these creative type of arts and creative methods, it actually helps inclusion and is very inclusive, or if there is still an issue of getting more people to be involved or not.
Well, in Kaldabruna, like saying, the 158 actually in the village, 50 were members of the organisation. So that it built up quite a good synergy there. We did notice that the men were not so involved. Usually, in some ways, it's sort of like trying to get women, with the gender balance. I'm finding that actually in Latvia, sometimes it's the men. They're very passive, and the women might be more active. So yes, we noticed that men were participating. They would do the physical stuff. They would do the, if they wanted something building, the men would be there. They would even help the women by, they'll do the jobs at home, so the women could go, which was like, oh, that's great. But they still weren't necessarily active participation. They weren't actually in the workshops. There was only about 2 or 3 men in the workshop because they didn't want. They don't do the speaking bits. So yes, there's still an element where you need to actually draw in the men in this case as much as the women. The women were working together quite well and developing a really good, trusting community. But yes, we need to draw the men in. And practical work may actually be some of the issues. This is something I was talking to them about.
Okay, thank you. You can ask after this session some more questions if you are interested in, but now we have to move on. And Hanniina, here you are.
Thank you. So my name is Hanniina, and I'm going to present to you something very practical. So I'm an environmental school teacher working with schools and classes. And first I would like to know how many of you are teachers. So if all the teachers can raise their hand. Okay, very nice. And then everyone who has used shadow play as a method before, please raise your hand. There's one. And how many of you have used animation as a method? Okay, so there's a few. I hope we can maybe share experiences, at least later on if we don't have time at the moment. And all of you who haven't used these methods before, I hope after this presentation you will be able to do it. So it's actually very easy. And first a few words where I come from. So the Helsinki Metropolitan Reuse Centre, we're about 70 kilometers to the north, across the sea. And the main thing we do is sell used things, clothes, electronics, whatever. And quite a lot of them. We have at the moment 5 shops where we do this recycling. But in addition to trying to make the world more sustainable by recycling and avoiding and sort of recycling things, we also do environmental education because that has actually a bigger potential to change the world. And these are some facts from our environmental school. So we are 5 environmental educators who do it full-time and then some more who do it part-timely. And we are actually working in cooperation with the local waste authority. So they are actually funding most of our visits to the local schools. So it's for us to Helsinki Environmental Services Authority. We have the same aim to reduce the amount of waste. So when we go to the school, these are the kinds of topics we will discuss with the pupils, and we have like certain lesson plans the teacher can choose from what's going to be the topic. And now I'm going to present 2 of our, maybe my favorite methods we use. So with all the pupils, we use this shadow play program, and we actually go to the class, and usually we have only one hour, so 1 lesson, and in that time we create a shadow play program, and we divide the class into 5 groups, and every group rehearses quickly their own little piece on the shadow theatre, and then we present them to each other to form like you could say it's a TV show, like an environmental podcast or something like that, and we deal these issues of, for example, waste or what kind of choices should we do if we want to make sustainable food choices and things like this. And so it will be even more practical. I thought I'd try to demonstrate also in here. And if you can see the box here, that would be good. And we will see if I can turn off the lights, because that's very important. Good. And Okay, the materials are going around. Good day to you all. I just wanted to come here to remind everyone about how important our work is. Since the fact is that we, the humans, are consuming more resources than the earth can make. We seem to think that we have 2 planets, or at least 1.5. But in reality, we only have one, this wonderful blue planet. That's why the work you all do is so important. Anyone come back? Am I doing wrong? Maybe we'll have it in the dark for the rest of them. It says lights on, and I'm pushing it. Nothing happens. Ooh. Uh-oh. Okay. Well, maybe we will see in the dark. Okay. That's fine for me. I will be less nervous because you don't see me so well. And because we have so little time, I'm not going to show what the children have done with this, but there's a link in my presentation, so you can go and see. And there the language is Finnish, so you probably won't understand so much. And why we use this method? Basically, the pupils, they just have to do something when you have a method like this. You can easily go there and present and ask questions and do many things. And you might get at least a few most active pupils to work with you. But with this method, pretty much everyone has to work. And also they can put their own input in it. So if they have a good storyline, they can invent it themselves, the whole story, as I did. I actually wrote the script last night before I went to bed from you. But then if they don't want to, they can follow a ready-made script, and it's easier. And also, when you go behind the box here, even if you're shy, it's easier to present your ideas because it's not you, it's the shadow puppet who's talking. And it's, of course, a lot of fun. And basically, what you need is here. It's some cardboard, a box. I have a pro model here which you can put into pieces or into a small piece, so it's easier to carry. But basically, that's, if you're in a certain location, that's what you can use. And then to our more high-tech method, so animation. And this we don't usually do with normal classes, but we work with environmental teams in schools. For example, if your country has eco schools, they have these teams of students who try to influence other students in the school and make campaigns about recycling or energy use or whatever. And here we start with the pupils' own ideas. They know what they need to do in the school, what are the problems, and we are going to make campaign material for them to help them in their work. But usually we are short of time, so we have sometimes only an hour, and if we're very luxury in the time, we have a lot of time, it's only 4 hours, so we still have some ready-made characters for them to speed up the process. And we work with groups of 10 in this, basically, because in this we use technology, and we haven't had more money yet, so we only have three of the devices we use. But I thought that the children's work is the best way to approach this, so I thought I'll show you at least one animation they have done, if I can get this to work. Okay, it should have music, but are we maybe... No, it worked. It didn't work. So the title page was just recycling paper.
You just need to press play and keep posting.
But we can watch it at silent if the music doesn't work. That's fine. We'll do that. It is somewhere in the background. So it says mixed waste. And that's the paper recycling bin. Okay, now we're on a little bit of time with the children, so they just had to write that if you recycle, you will, or new paper is made out of the old paper. And this says the end. And the children who did it are of ages, okay, no, it's going to be the next one. And so the smallest child there was actually 8 years old, and the oldest doing that animation was 11. So that's actually why I have also split the 5th to 9th graders part from my topic, because since when we submitted the abstract, we were only working with older children, but now we have been also doing this with smaller children and also with adults. Okay, I don't want to watch it anymore, sorry. I want to go back to my presentation. No, this. And then if you want to, there's some other ones you can watch at home or later on. And again, why do we use it? It's really the children that get to use their own ideas, and they sort of are active. And also with the technology, it's a good way because the children like it very much. So if you have an iPad or an iPhone or whatever already, you've invested in it, it's a great way to use it. And basically what you need to make these kinds of animations, if you want to do it very, very quickly, so if you only have a few hours, the program we use is very easy. So that's basically what you need. You need the pad and an application for it, and then the cardboard paper or something to make the characters. And then if you have this camera stand thing, makes it easier, but you don't have to have it. You can also balance it somewhere on top of a table and do it on the ground or something like that. And if you're interested in getting the app, well, it's a very good app, so so I'm also giving them free advertise. And so that's it from me. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. And if you want to learn more, just come and talk to me on the coffee break. I'll be happy to show the program more.
Any questions? It was very inspiring, and actually I have to say that I have used shadow play at home. I have 8 years old son, so definitely I have used it.
Okay.
In some ways. But have you got any feedback before and after your lessons from children? How they have learned and what kind of emotions they have after your lessons?
Well, we do gather feedback every once in a while, and basically the thing they say, it was fun. Like, oh, I thought it's going to be the same, maybe a little bit depressing stuff, but it was actually fun. That's maybe the main point which comes out of it, and I think it has to be fun to influence them and to create a more positive thinking about the environmental issues.
And so far you have used it for younger children with shadow play. And this is definitely for younger ones somehow. But what kind of tricks I should use to use this kind of shadow play for a little bit older children?
No, the shadow play we actually use with 5th to 9th graders, so they're about
Up to 15.
yeah, up to 15 years old. So I would say that's pretty old.
Because in some cases, for a little bit older ones, you need to find some hints or some tricks to.
Yeah, well, it's of course easy in the school because they have to be there. So in a way, then they have to do it. But I'm sure at least with the animation, children age, or even very very old people like these my colleagues like to do it also. So.
I can see this is really fun and engaging for people of all ages. I find it one of the most interesting things when I'm setting tasks for students is what I learn from them through their actions and their activities. Could you share with us what you've learned about the children's attitudes and understanding from their work that you've been doing with them?
Well, you mean like how much do they understand about the environmental problems, or how they work as a group, or?
Well, both are interesting. Do you think, do you get any insight into the way they understand these problems, these challenges? Because the example you showed was nice. It was very straightforward, this idea. You saw the paper and it goes there and they do things with it. I imagine you've seen so many that sometimes maybe you've been surprised and thought, well, that's a funny way of thinking about it. And that's what I'd be particularly interested in hearing about.
Yes. Well, I picked the very straightforward one for you because it didn't have any speak in it. The more complex ones have been spoken in Finnish. So we have done also about like the life cycle of, for example, food, where it comes from and what happens to it, and like why you shouldn't waste it. But if you don't sort of somehow talk them through it, the pupils, they usually go to the very simple ideas, like they will go with the recycling, or even more, they will go with throwing trashes into the nature, and that's bad. So you do have to guide them a little bit to get them thinking about the more complex issues, and then you need to have these a little bit longer sessions. So if you have the 4 hours, you get to do more complex things. But if you just have an hour or two, then mainly you go with the easier things. Okay, but maybe we can continue the talk on the coffee break. That would be nice.
Yeah, one more question.
So I believe that motivating these children is quite easy, but do they have to make some kind of plan of what they are going to should so that you can kind of check that it's not going to be whatever.
Yes, we have a paper where they write like what's going to be the main thing they are going to promote, or like what's the idea of the film, and then what are the characters and what's going to happen. And of course you have to be very careful there so that you're not feeding them your own ideas, or you have to do this, this, and this, but you have to, it's a balance, like you have to give them also space, and then you will end up actually with the world exploding in the end, but many times. But yeah, we do sort of try to guide them.
Are you going through these works afterwards that you can kind of list what everyone has learned?
That would be something which would be very nice, but we go to visit the school and we have like only a few hours we can spend with them, so that would be then the work of their own teacher.
And probably they will continue in some lessons.
Hopefully. Okay, but thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
There's a lot of technical issues with this choice. My name is Marianne and I come from University of Tartu. I really have very little experience actually teaching education for sustainable development. My background is in natural sciences, and I actually have a bachelor degree in theology too. So I have a really versatile background. And at the moment I am working at the Center for Educational Technology at the University of Tartu, and also teaching future kindergarten and vocational school teachers. I'm working with service teachers. And it would be great to have my creative presentation working. Maybe is this work? No? Hello? Maybe? Anyway. I was in the middle of my PhD, so I will share my story before I can show the pictures. I was in my second year, I think, in PhD studies, and I was doing my research on small forest passerines. And I had got into the natural sciences because I was very passionate about nature, and I wanted to really to do something good. But then in the middle of my PhD studies, I discovered that I was not doing anything good. Actually, I was doing more harm than good. So, hope this works now. No? So yeah, then I quit my PhD studies, and now I was doing research on these little guys. So I was studying their stress physiology, but this is okay, basically. And now I'm a lecturer for education for sustainable development. It's been an ethical journey, and now I'm hoping that I'm doing more good than bad. So hopefully this works now. Yay! Okay, we all know that one of the aims of education for sustainable development is to equip the future citizens with the necessary awareness and knowledge and attitude and skills, and that's a lot of things. And we as teacher educators really play a crucial role in educating these teachers that shall shape these future citizens. So we have a really big task ahead of us. How to come across so that teachers are really able to shape these new citizens the way we want them. What do we even want from them? And there's a challenge in formal teacher education, because the subject is taught separately. It's not in every subject. It is a separate subject. And for me, the experience has been that these pre-service teachers see that this topic is too complicated. It's not relevant for my practice. It's no use. I don't want to learn it. And they are forced to learn it because it's in their curriculum. It's there because of the policymakers. And they see me also as a kind of I don't know, someone who is giving them top-down guidelines for how to do their practice, but they don't want to do this. Their immediate focus is on practical and short-term goals, but as educators for sustainable development, we want them to focus on the long-term goals, to focus on their values and attitudes, and not so much practical work-related stuff. So there's a big challenge. And here I just bring a quote from one of my students who had trouble with seeing the relevance of the course. So this was really this is exemplary of the whole attitude that is in the classroom when I stand there, because they don't really see it. If I don't bring them practical lesson plans, then they don't see the relevance of it at all. So basically, I try to bring the message across, and I want them to care about this subject. So, in order to move away from the top-down guidelines from the policymakers, we need to engage their hands and hearts, and this has been really, it's nothing new really, but it's something that has proven effective in my little experience or practice that I've done so far. And I've shared you my story, and each of us have their own stories, and we as educators also function as role models. And the stories we should hide, we should share our stories. And it has been shown that in kindergartens it's really effective to teach education for sustainable development, that is really complex subject through storytelling. And when children actually have an opportunity to take part in the creation of the story, like they can even choose the subject, what they want the story to be about. And when they see, for example, a hedgehog, and then they say that I want to hear a story about hedgehog, and then the teacher starts making up the stories, and that's why we are all participating in the storytelling. But in my mind, the storytelling doesn't have to end in kindergartens. We all like stories. I think I do. And I found a really powerful quote from Norton, and it really shows the power of the story. There's been a lot of talk about transformation and transformative learning, and I think that stories function that way, because we step out of our personal space and we join others in the adventure and excitement and the life we're living communally with everyone else. And we also, in doing it this way, in communicating with others, we really understand our own lives also better. Like I said, stories do have transformative powers, and it is what ESD aims for. We as teachers of ESD really wish to transform our students, but we cannot force them to transform or teach them, now you should transform. It should take place on its own. And I found one author that is really close to my heart. There's a quote from that author, that learning is transformative when it engages both the cognitive, the psychomotor, and the affective learning domains, namely the heart, the head, and the hands. And that's how I have, this is my approach in teaching. I try to engage all of those domains. And I have also some experiences in global education. And I try to combine these these traditional teaching methods, and also the methods we have, different methods from ESD, with the ones from global education. And for the most part, really, I have been telling stories from real life, and it has worked. It's really nothing new. It's just we all do this. We give lectures, and then we have seminars. It's really basic stuff. But I think that this is all about this. This is all. These are all stories. If you the joining denominator or something, if you want to say, because I see that when the students forget that they should be learning something or taking notes or something, that's when the learning happens, because when they really engage with the topic. And when, for example, I gave them something to read from the National Geographic, the stories from the National Geographic are excellent in doing this, because most of the stories have all the different aspects of sustainable development in it. There's the environment, there's the economy, there's the society, everything is there. And then you just let them read the story, and usually they are very emotional stories, and then they help them to see the different aspects. That these things are really complicated. These things are all integrated with each other, but at the same time, we all understand them, because it is life, and that we all have some experience in life. And also the same thing, I was asking I found a book where the author had received letters from her readers, and they have sent her letters from the real world, so to say, with real problems. And I printed those letters and gave them to my students and asked them to reply to these letters with their own experiences and their own problems from their real world problems. So and this worked also very well. They said that they had to really think through, and they understood things better after it. And my students always love watching videos and films, and even simple YouTube clips that at the first look maybe you do not have any connection to the subject. If you let the students interpret it in their own ways and ask questions from each other, then you can find almost in every video clip you can find some connection to the topic you are discussing. It's all a matter of creativity. So, and there's also the role playing, and now I have another thing I want to try with my students, namely the shadow play, and there are all different stories. And I'm so happy that we are all here talking about this. Anyway, they may become a problem when we are working in formal education, and we want to deal with grades and assess somehow if the students are really have really gained some knowledge, or if their attitudes have changed, or what has there been any kind of I don't know, change or something. Then I have just asked them to tell me a story of their journey in a form of self-reflection on the course. And it has also proved very successful, because they really say some things to me that they are really little changes in perspective. But I think these can be the beginning of something new. And I would not have achieved these things if I had just given them facts and figures of the. I didn't talk about the suffering of battery hens or something like that. They gave us yes, you understand. Anyway. These are quotes from my students that have inspired me to work on. And so to sum up, then when you add the heart and hands component, then you really should influence the whole person. and transformation can occur. And we cannot really teach education for sustainable development, but we can create opportunities for it to happen. And I see that stories can create these opportunities. I cannot give you the facts and figures, but some, in general, they really said that they learned the most through active participation and through watching the documentaries and by listening to others. And this, in storytelling terms, it's really when they participate in the storytelling themselves and listen to other people's stories, then they learn the most. And also I encourage their dialogue with the readings and also with the writing assignments. They were never really just reading the text and then reproducing them, but really to question whether my students believe the author, or do they want to ask them author some questions, or something like that. There was always a dialogue or a story going on. Yeah, some more quotes from the students that I wanted to share that show that this is a beginning of something. It's not the full product or the completion of a process, but really it is the beginning of something, and I'm really happy. And to come to my conclusion. There are some stories that have really crossed the continents and became bestsellers, so to say. And some of them have become myths. So maybe if we, each of us, share a story, then we will have an impact, even if it's a small one. It's a beginning of something. So thank you.